Hi, my name's Sarah Hart from Sarah Hart Driving School, and today I'm going to deliver a briefing on the cockpit drill. And this is mainly for the use of our PDIs of our Drive Heart wing. So the cockpit drill is usually the first lesson that you deliver, and you deliver that in a static area where you're going to conduct your first lesson. Obviously, when you roll up at this location, you're going to be driving because you've got a brand new pupil on your hands. So the first thing we need to think about is D for doors. We're going to have a little a D.H.S.S.S.M routine, which I'll talk you through. So you're going to be in the driver's side, and the first D, as I said, is for doors. You need to instruct your pupil how to exit the car safely. Now, if it's a gusty day, very often people just swing the door open and it crashes into the poor person innocently walking along the pavement alongside you, or into the car next door. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that they, with their right hand, put their hand across and hold onto the door handle, and then they open the door with their left hand. So even if a big gust of wind takes the door, it can only go as far as this arm allows. So that's the way to exit safely. Before they do that, they need to have a look in their door mirror and also take a look out the window and make sure nobody's going to get injured by them opening their door. So you're going to instruct them that you're going to meet around the back of the car, and I'll tell you in a bit why we're going to meet around the back. So we're going to exit the car safely and meet at the back of the car. You're going to take your car keys with you. Don't forget to do that. So once you're around the back of the car, you discuss with them why it's safer to exit round the back, and that is because you can see oncoming cars and they can see you, so invariably you're in a safer position. Whilst you're there, you might as well check that the boot is shut and closed securely. Don't let them look in the boot, because if it's anything like mine, it's full of stuff. So you're going to then escort your pupil into the car by holding the door open for them, letting them get into the car, and instruct them not to fiddle with any instruments while they're in there. So you come around the back of the car, jump in yourself into the passenger side. So we talked about exiting the car safely with our D for doors. And the other thing about the doors is it's now the pupil's responsibility as the driver to make sure that all the doors of the vehicle are shut. Now, the Ford Focuses that we use have 5 doors, 2 front, 2 back and a boot. So from the driver's side, they can look in the door mirrors to see that the doors are flush. If the doors are open, you'll see a little kink in the side in the mirror, so you know the doors are open. And of course, the other thing is, if you were to drive off with any of the doors open, in our modern cars today, we're going to get an alarm. So there's our D for doors. We now move on to the H. That's for handbrake. We need to make sure that the handbrake is on securely, and although you haven't given them any instruction on the use of the handbrake at this stage, just get them to pull it up and make sure it's nice and tight to make sure we're not going to roll off down the hill while we're chatting about the rest of the cockpit drill. So we've done D for doors, H for handbrake. We move on to the first of our 3 S's, and that is the seat. It's very important that the driver is in a comfortable position, and we need to make sure that they're the correct distance from the pedals. And to do this, what they need to do is pop their left foot onto the clutch with the ball of their foot and put the clutch right down to the floor. With the clutch right down, what we should have is a little bit of knee bend there, so it's possible that they may need to move forwards or back, and they move the seat forwards and back by reaching down into the front of the seat. Down underneath the seat there's a bar. You pull the bar up and move the seat forward or back accordingly. So the clutch down, little bit of knee bend. The other adjustment on the seat is the back of the seat. You can sit more upright or further back, and there's a dial round by the right hand side of the seat. So winding the dial forwards just brings the back of the seat up, and pushing it back relaxes the sitting position. So they've got to make sure that they're comfortable with that. The other adjustment, of course, is the head restraint. They will always refer to it as the headrest, which of course it is not. And as we know, the head restraint is there to prevent or lessen head and neck injuries in the case of an accident. It prevents whiplash. The top of the head restraint needs to be level with the top of the head, or the central rigid part of the head restraint level with the top of your ears or your eyes, assuming that your eyes and the top of the ears match up. So there's the seating positions, and we're going to move on now to our next S, which is the steering wheel. The steering wheel again has a lever underneath the column, which can be removed by lowering the lever down, and then you can move the steering wheel up or down or in or out. We need to adjust the steering wheel so that they can see the dials through the gap in the steering wheel, and so that also with their arms outstretched, the steering wheel lies just underneath their wrists. So the steering wheel will be just coming underneath their wrists with their arms outstretched. Once they've got the steering wheel in the right position, hang on to it with one hand and replace the lever under the steering column with the other hand. That's your steering wheel done. And now we move on to the next S, which is our seatbelt. So the seatbelt obviously is a legal requirement, it has to be worn, and as the driver of the car, you are responsible for any under 14s in your car. If you have a 10-year-old in your car as the driver and they're not wearing their seatbelt, you will be legally responsible. So the seatbelts need to be put on and the buckle clips securely into the fastener, and make sure that there's no kinks or twist in the belt across the chest and across the tummy. When you release the seatbelt, the good advice is to get them to carefully release the buckle and guide the buckle back up to its holding position so that it doesn't just swing freely and, in my case, break your glasses or hit you in the face. Okay, so just controlling that buckle back up to its resting place. Excellent. So now we've had D for doors, H for handbrake, S for seat, S for steering wheel, and S for seatbelt. Now we move on to our last letter, which is M for mirrors. The mirrors, we're going to start with the rear view mirror, which is the mirror in the middle. And the rear view mirror is to allow us to see out of the back of the car. So with the pupil moving the mirror with their hands, being careful not to put fingerprints on the mirror, so they're holding the mirror around the outside of the rim. They can adjust that just by hands, just moving it around so they can see as best as possible out of the back window. And they'll probably see the sides of both ours and their head restraints in the side of that mirror. The rear view mirror is used before changing speed, so before changing speed up, so speeding up or slowing down, the rear view mirror is checked. The other thing about the rear view mirror is it will always give the exact reflection of the distance of the cars behind you. So that's an exact replica of the position they're in. So that's your speeding up and slowing down mirror. And just a little tip, make sure that they don't lean forwards out of their seat, adjust their rear view mirror, and that's great, they can see, but of course when they sit back to their driving position, that mirror's wrong, so just keep an eye on that. The next mirrors we're going to talk about are the door mirrors. These door mirrors now, to adjust those, we need to have the ignition on. So we need to instruct them how to get the ignition on, and that's putting the key in the ignition and turning the key, in the Ford Focus's case, 4 clicks until the electrics come on, and we know they're on because we get the lights on the dashboard. Now the electrics will work so we can adjust those door mirrors. So in the Ford Focus, the adjusting pad is on the right-hand side on the door pad, and the inner bit needs to be pushed to the right, and then you can use the pads around the outside, the arrows up, down, in and out. And this adjusts the right-hand door mirror. So to adjust it to get into the right position, from their sitting position in their driver's seat, they need to see about 2 fingers width of our car that we're in, and they need to be able to see along the road behind them, so about 2/3 road, 1/3 sky. It's no point having it pointing up to the sky because we're not looking for low-flying aircraft, probably. So that's the sort of setting for that. And then they click the middle bit of the control to the left, and that way they can use the arrows up, down, in and out to adjust the left door mirror. Same thing again, we're looking for about 2 fingers worth of our car and a way off down the pavement in this case, if we're parked on the left, which we would be at this stage, down behind us. And we're using our door mirrors before we change direction. And on the door mirrors, particularly in our teaching cars, we have fish eyes, which are the little round eye mirrors that give you a better view, and they just help us see, but they're generally going to be using the major part of the mirror. The door mirrors are convex, which means that it will make the cars that they see in the mirrors seem further away. So that brings us back to our rear view mirror, which gives us the exact picture, and your door mirrors make things seem further away, and that's an important thing to remember. And at this stage, it's a good idea, once they've set their mirrors, to just get them to see a car coming along behind them or coming past them and behind them, and just taking quick glances, rear view door, oh yes, and then they can see the difference between the picture that the mirrors paint for them. So those are our mirrors, and that basically is our cockpit drill. So we've got D for doors, H for handbrake, S for seat, S for steering wheel, S for seatbelt, and M for mirrors. And of course it's really important that we always do the mirrors last, because there's no point getting in and adjusting your mirrors, getting them nicely set up and then moving your seat, because it's not going to work. So that, in short, is the cockpit drill.
How often would you ask them to do the drill?
So each time they get in the car, they're going to have to do the drill, because presuming they're taking over from you, you've had it set up for you. So every time they get in,